Welcome back everybody, and today we'll be doing another Making the Best Album 4 video, and this video will be for a member of the Shitty Boys named TrDee. If you've watched my videos, you know my first YouTube video ever was making the best album for Babytron, who is actually also a member of the Shitty Boys group as well. I don't really listen to TrDee besides like 2 songs, and I think I've actually only ever finished like 2 albums by TrDee, so this will be fully most of first time listens. For y'all who don't know how this works, pretty much I'm gonna listen to every album by TrDee and take songs from each album and arrange them to make the perfect album for TrDee. I'll also be rating the albums and telling my opinions of the albums that I hear along the way. And with all that said, let's get right into the video and listen to this first album. We start our journey to the perfect TrDee album with Trapped in My Bag. I want to start by saying this album cover is fucking fire, by the way. I don't know who drew this cover, but this bitch hard as hell. Trapped in My Bag has a total of 11 songs and is 27 minutes and 15 seconds long, which isn't that long, but it's not a bad length either, to be honest. The first 2 things I noticed about the songs on this album is that the beats are nice, which is good, but the beats are also loud as shit. The vocals are damn near washed over by the beat, so I have to actually sit here and pay attention to hear what he's saying. And when you can't understand him, you can kind of tell he's pretty much spitting, I ain't gonna cap. I can tell that TrDee wanted to prove himself with this album by the way he's rapping on these songs. He's spitting on these songs as if he's actually starting to get pissed off, which is good. It would be better if the beats weren't so fucking loud. Also, I just want to ask, why the hell was Casher Kwan in Wakanda? Bro came for 15 seconds just to contribute nothing to the damn song. Earlier in the video I told y'all I only listened to like 2 TrDee songs, and one of those songs are actually in this album, and it's Groove. That song is fire, and you cannot tell me otherwise. That shit is made for the club, trust me. A lot of Detroit albums had a problem of sounding like one huge freestyle, and this album isn't really any different. TrDee just kind of runs through these beats back to back, which is common for Detroit rappers, but at the same time it still kind of gets boring after a while. I feel like this is why most Detroit rappers choose to go with shorter albums instead of albums that are 40 minutes or even an hour long. I got probably close to halfway through the album and started getting bored with it, to be honest. I will give bro credit for trying to actually get out of the just non-stop shit-talking songs and actually making a love song, which is called Run To. He's still shit-talking, but the lyrics are about a female he likes, which is a refreshing change of pace, and I actually liked the song the more I got through it. The album starts off pretty hard and ends up becoming a more slow-paced album, and even though you can hear the vocals more in the slow-paced part of the album, it's kind of pretty boring. I don't mind slower songs or anything. These songs are just decent. The flows are slow and alright, and the beats are also just mid. The flow for the first half was lit and the beats were nice, except the beats were just too damn loud. I'll give this album a 5 out of 10. It's not a bad start for his first album, but it's not that good either. I hear good singles, but I don't really care for the whole album, so I'm not really gonna give it more than a 5. The songs I picked for consideration for the album are Trapped in My Bag, Groove, and Run To. And let's get to the next album to see if TrDee went up from here. The second album we have is Made for This, and the album cover that was made for this sucks. I don't like it, especially compared to that fire-ass cover we got the first time. This album is only 16 minutes and 57 seconds long with a total of 7 songs, which is significantly shorter than the first album. This album actually starts off lit as hell. Like, the first song is hard as fuck and threw me off because I kind of wasn't expecting for it to start off so damn hard. I feel like this album was made to be a way to get rid of some throwaway songs while giving fans music at the same time, and it's alright, I guess. I don't think he made this album thinking it was going to be top 5 albums of all time or anything, and it's definitely not. One thing I liked about this album is the fact that on the Stan Will freestyle, he did a freestyle on the same beat that Stan Will did a song to a while ago. Stan Will is another member of the Shitty Boys, so it's a nice shout out to his friend and the fans get to acknowledge it as well. The album in total isn't really the greatest thing I've ever heard, but it's not that bad either. There are songs that could have been saved for a better album and other songs that could have just been not released at all and I would not have cared. The beats aren't ridiculously loud anymore, so you can actually hear his lyrics this time, but it's not really anything too impressive. The beat selection is hard in certain songs and the lyrics do be hidden in those songs as well, but he also put a majority of songs in this album that really didn't need to be on an album or dropped in general. I will be giving this album a 5 out of 10 as well. I feel like this album was made just to be a random drop, and they succeeded in being something, just not something memorable. The songs I picked are Night at the Lab and Abracadabra featuring the Shitty Boys. The next album hopefully will be better than this because I am not being left impressed as of right now. The album that appears next is titled Most Improved Player. I'm going to be skipping Dookie Brothers 2 because we already talked about that album in my Babytron video, so go watch that if you haven't already and you'll get to see how I feel about that album. Most Improved Player has 20 songs, comes in at 47 minutes and 34 seconds, which is his longest album so far. I remember listening to part of this album when it came out, but not listening to the rest, and hopefully it was just out of laziness and not boredom. First off, let's talk about this album cover. This album cover isn't bad, but it's still not that good either. This looks like bro paid the 5th grader to draw this, but it's still better than made for this, so I mean I guess that's something. This album is low-key pretty boring. D is known for having a more calm tone when he's rapping, which is fine, and it works for him sometimes, and you know, like Groove and Night at the Lab, but this album consists of a lot of songs that don't really impress me, which is crazy because it's called Most Improved Player. You would also think that by the title of the album being Most Improved Player that this album would have a theme where he's showing how much he's improved over the years. It doesn't. This is one of those albums that has a nice name, but the album doesn't go with it. None of the songs are showing me how he's improved. If anything, the beats are hard, but he's not actually doing anything new. This feels like I'm listening to an hour of his catalog on shuffle. Before it even gets to the halfway mark, I was already bored with it and yawned way more than a few times listening to it. I actually got excited when I seen the name of this album and seen that it was 47 minutes long because I thought D was going to put his foot down and prove to us why people should stop sleeping on him. Instead of doing that though, we got another throwaway album, which is annoying because I actually want to like this nigga's music. But I already knew before making this video why I didn't listen to TrDee and why I don't finish his albums. I'm finishing the albums now for the video, but before this video I only actually finished Trapped in My Bag and didn't do anything else. I'm giving this a 4 out of 10 just because not only did it disappoint me for not living up to its name, but also it was boring and went on for way longer than it needed to be, and I am disappointed in what I just listened to. I don't feel like bro earned the title of Most Improved Player with this album, and I'm not excited for the last album if we're being honest. The songs that I chose to be considered for the album are Showdown featuring Stand Will and Milestone. Now we can finally move on to TrDee's most recent album. TrDee's latest album is Trapped in My Bag 2, which is actually the album that made me decide to do this video because I saw it dropped recently at the time and decided I could just listen to all of his albums and make a video about it. I actually fuck with this album cover, to be honest. It's definitely nice to see that he finally paid for a good album cover again. This album is a whole 59 minutes and 5 seconds long with 24 songs, and I will be honest, I am not excited for it after listening to all the other albums and none of them coming over a 5 so far. One thing I will give TrDee is that he always has very few features, and most of his albums are genuinely solo albums except for like 2 or 3 features, which is good since most niggas like to spam their albums with fucking features. Also, before we start the review, I just want to say this nigga D said in the song Jimi Hendrix, "Don't worry about what's in the cup, just sip and relax."
Police! Police! Help! Police! Help! Police! Help! Help! Police! Help!
Alright, now let's get to the review. I actually have one question for y'all. Who the fuck put D in his bag? Because this man hopped in his bag in this album, I'm not gonna lie. Bro genuinely came in this bitch trapped in his bag, and I'm fucking with it. This album is what Most Improved Players should have been, but at least we got something better than the last few albums. I'm not going to lie though, this album is needlessly long. I think he should have split it in half and made it deluxe with the rest of the songs. There are genuinely a lot of bangers on this album, but since there isn't really too much of a theme, the album just kind of drags on for a while. You're going to be turned up listening to this, but after a while, you're kind of tired of being turned up, and I could tell halfway through I wanted to be more turned for the rest of the songs, but I was already worn out from listening to all these songs back to back with no breaks or anything. I think a lot of artists insist on making their albums longer because they think it makes it better and that fans will appreciate the fact that they're dropping more songs, which we do, but at the same time, I personally like albums where they're short or long as it's, you know, just a regularly good album. There's nothing wrong with making a shorter good album. This album is good and has some nice ass songs, but it needs to be shorter for sure. I got to TrDee and thought the album was going to be over and saw I had 6 more songs to go and literally went
please.
I'll give D his props for actually putting different songs at the end of the album. He put slower songs at the end of it, but this time they're not slow in a boring way. They're more of heartfelt songs that talk about real street shit. The slow songs, while good, did randomly come out of nowhere, and I feel like this album with a bit of better placement could have hit way harder. I feel like he could have put a few of the slow songs in the main album and put the rest in the deluxe. This album was on a roll until I got halfway through and started getting tired, and then it randomly turned slow, and that did not help the fact that I was getting tired. It also randomly goes back to being fast paced in the third to last song, which kind of threw me the fuck off. I'm going to get this album a 6.5 out of 10. The first half of this album was definitely hitting hard, but it overstayed its welcome and ended up doing too much, which made it not hit as hard as it did in the first half. The songs I chose to consider for the album are Trapped in My Bag 2, Watch the Cats Race featuring Babytron, TYB, Pledge Allegiance to the Bag, Dan Marino, and Ni Hao. I decided as a bonus to actually review the first Dookie Brothers album, so here we go. Dookie Brothers dropped on February 3rd of 2021, which is 5 days away from my birthday on February 8th. If you didn't know that, now you know my fucking birthday. Dookie Brothers also has 6 songs in totals at 13 minutes and 1 second long. I fuck with the cover art, which I've already said in my Babytron video. Also, this EP is actually a Babytron and TrDee collab EP. I actually fuck with this EP, to be honest. The songs are hitting for sure, but the one problem I have is that it seems like Tron stands out more than TrDee in this album. After the first song, I low-key forgot this was a collab tape. It felt more like a bunch of Babytron songs featuring TrDee, which sucks because I'm making the perfect TrDee album, not the perfect Babytron album. Y'all already know a collab tape needs to feel like both sides are equally snapping. Both people need to fill in the spots that the other leaves. I won't lie though, TrDee ate and bada boom bada bing, and they could have left Tron out of that song to be real, which is again still a problem since they're making a collab tape. I'm going to get this tape a smooth 7.5 out of 10, and the songs we'll be taking into consideration will be Johnny Dang and Bada Boom Bada Bing. Now it's time to put together the perfect TrDee album, my nigga. So we made it through all of the albums, listened to all of the songs, and now it's time for the perfect TrDee album. Now, I wanted this album to highlight Dee's journey and show that he also has the potential to be something big, and I also wanted this album to be what most improved players should have been from the jump. I needed this album to show how hard TrDee could be while also still making a body of work that doesn't overshare its welcome. I wanted it to be an album instead of just a collage of good songs. Now what I came out with is an album titled The Highlight Reel. This album is not only a TrDee album, but it's a highlight reel for the journey TrDee has been on through the years and shows his growth musically and mentally. Now I'm probably hyping this up so much in y'all head right now, and I know y'all are ready to hear the track list, so let's go ahead and get that out the way. Number 1, Night at the Lab. 2, Groove. 3, Johnny Test. 4, TYB. 5, Ni Hao featuring Stan Will. 6, Johnny Dang featuring Babytron. 7, Abracadabra featuring Shitty Boys. 8, Watch the Cats Race featuring Babytron. 9, Trapped in My Bag 2. 10, Showdown featuring Stan Will. 11, Trapped in My Bag. 12, Bada Boom Bada Bing featuring Babytron. And number 13, as a bonus, Run 2. After listening to this album that I made, I'm gonna have to give this a 9 out of 10. There was a point where I felt like one of the songs could have been removed or replaced, but other than that, I feel like this album is lit as fuck. It comes in at 32 minutes, so it's not that long, but it's long enough. The album starts off lit and stays lit while kind of toning down more towards the end, with the songs near the end being more of D genuinely shit talking and showing y'all what he's been through and how he feels. I feel like I ate with this one, and I really hope y'all like this album because I do. So let me know what y'all think about it in the comments, and make sure to check out my other videos if you feel like it. Also, the playlist for the album that I made will be in the comment section, so make sure to check that out if you haven't already.
Have you ever wanted to die inside? Have you ever felt alive inside? I ask myself when I'm alone, and I'm just scared to die alone. Have you ever wanted to die?